Okay, I have been very slow to post this week. I didn't get a job offer that I was in the process for a strategy and ops role at a company I really wanted to work for, and yeah, basically was doing the case studies, and honestly I feel like that's what I'm really naturally good at, and so I was quite surprised that I didn't get to the next stage. I really thought that I'd done, I don't know, a good job and whatnot, and yeah, so I was pretty gutted earlier this week, because and you just think you've manifested something, you've already got it. This job was literally exactly what you've been looking for on paper, and you're like, this is it. And so I did make a video early in the week, but I think I was so flat. I'm just not sure if I'm even going to post it. We'll see. It was a pretty short one. I guess it's pretty raw and real, but I suppose, it's Friday now, so I definitely, yeah, I'm going to struggle to get 4 videos out this week, but when you set a goal, you just got to do it, because otherwise when you miss it, or when you let slip, that's when you can give up. Anyway, and I've got this new chair, which is a replica of a really bougie chair, that I also thought was going to be perfect for, oh, you can see something going on in the shadows there. I thought it'd be perfect for these vlogs, but I'm not even sure about that anymore. Has been one of those weeks, to say the least. So what I wanted to talk about today, though, was, it's actually very relevant, and it's more about my reflections on not getting this role, but it's sort of 2 parts. One is does management consulting set you up for success? And more broadly, does being a generalist set you up for success? Or does it make it really hard to specialize later on? It's kind of the first part. And the second part I want to talk about is going to be more about doing things that, you feel like you should do or you can do, and going for roles that actually kind of bring you a lot of stress, but they're pay well, they're respected, you kind of, have been doing that previously. Or do we go for roles that just feel kind of easy because they actually are asking of us our natural talents? And yeah, I'd seen a Reese Witherspoon quote, have I mentioned this before, saying chase your talents, not chase your dreams, because chasing your talents will lead you where you're meant to go, because if you do what you're really good at, good things will come from that, and you will be quite successful. So it kind of got me thinking, I feel like I just haven't really been fully acknowledging my talents, and I even wrote a list of my 10 talents, and when I write them down, I find it actually really hard to write my own talents down, which is, not great. I know what I'm really not good at. I could write my areas of improvement quite easily, but talents, I was a bit harder. And then I sort of reflected, none of these really fit a strategy and ops role. Maybe 1 or 2 do, not 8. And I've been leaning a little bit too much in directions where, not to say that I'm bad at them, I can do it, but I'm not living to my full potential. So I'm trying to take when these kind of things happen, when you really think that job was meant for you, and you're shattered and gutted that you didn't get it, it's not to say you should give up. And I know that sometimes you just really want something, you got to keep trying, and maybe it shows you that, but sometimes it can show you hey, maybe this isn't the right thing for you, and let's reflect on that. So yeah, when it comes to, I guess, the first part, starting back from the top, I started my career in management consulting, And I know even to stay in consulting, like you have to specialize. You got to pick a market. Like I'm going to be the financial services partner. I'm going to be the retail partner. And you like, I think in anything you have to specialize. But I think I've found it quite hard. This is like when you go into like product, and maybe you can become a product manager, which I think is a good like secondary, you know, kind of role after consulting, or strategy and ops, like biz ops. I reckon they're like two, like kind of like chief of staff, the three kind of roles you can move into tech with kind of a consulting background. But I do think like, I guess with product, I mean, they all do have like a line to an executive position, like strategy and ops or a chief of staff role, like should mean that you could technically be on track for a COO role. Like that is what you're choosing to be, or maybe a CEO role. Like that is what you're choosing to specialize in. Same with product. I understand, okay, like if you want to become a master product manager, you might, you know, be able to move horizontally, like into different verticals or industries, but you're always doing product management. That's your skill set that you bring across. And there's a clear pathway there, again, to like head of product, CPO, or even a CEO. So I do understand that, like, I think it does set you up in a good way. And often when I look at JDs, you know, for jobs, they're like, a lot of the roles I've been looking at are kind of like, you know, consulting background is one of the preferred kind of, skill sets and things like that. But I guess, the window is like cutting me off here. Maybe I should just put the window down. Okay. If I put the window down, clearly I meant put the blind down. I don't know how you put a window down. Anyway, that seems a little bit better. Just me and my shadow. Maybe I need to figure out how to, if I showed you this room, you'd be like, why did you think you could put that chair in there? But here it is. Anyway. I do understand that consulting does set you up, like, to go a few different pathways and, you know, to become an expert in something. But I sort of feel like, you know, I think a lot of us, when we're graduating or like finishing school, and I think this has changed a lot now, but when I was finishing school, it was like, do you go into law, like engineering, arts, or a doctor, medicine? It's kind of like if you're a bit like technical, maybe you're going to engineering or medicine. You know, if you are more creative, you know, you go into arts, you're not sure what you want to do, go into arts. And law was like, if you want to be a lawyer, or like you just done well and you know, don't want to do arts, like you want to specialize in something. And so I did law and science. And I remember at the time, like, this is so funny, I just feel like my whole life I've been trying to be better at something that I'm not naturally good at. Because I was really good at like physics and chem and like decent at math at school. And I think, you know, my brother had said to me, like, you should keep science up because that'll be like really worthwhile. Because I think I was thinking of either doing commerce and law or arts and law and doing French. And I think my science law degree has gotten me a lot of the jobs that I have had. People are always really interested in that. But at the same time, I really struggled through my science degree, like, because physics and math at uni got to a whole nother level of hard that, like, I wasn't motivated to level up to. I think as in school, I really wanted, like, I was so motivated to get a really good ATAR that I just, like, worked really, really hard at it. And so, you know, I was good at it because, like, there's always the right answer. Whereas English, I always struggled with a little bit more because, like, what was the right answer? I don't know. I couldn't just, like, learn, like, a pattern or figure it out. And so, but I ended up doing well in both, like, my, you know, English and French subjects as well as my math and science. But I wasn't very good at art. Like, The only thing I did well in art was we had like the White House School of Design Fashion Institute come and do a sketching, like fashion sketching and illustration course, and I did really well at that. I was quite naturally good at it. But I mean, art teachers always hated me, I think, because I just thought I wasn't a creative person. And it's been interesting maybe to see how that's like evolved, or I've evolved, my skills have evolved. As I kept up with the science, you know, I didn't do super well in like half of my science subjects, the other half I did really well. I think it kind of correlated with like, I guess what the subject was about, and you know, what my schedule was like that term, whether I actually like went to lectures. And you know, I think like, I mean, in hindsight, because I went to college, I ended up just like having a lot of fun at university. I still did well and got like a distinction average, but it was like I feel like I scraped through there. So yeah, I kind of like was doing that, and then I thought, well, I didn't want to be a lawyer, and I probably knew this all along, and I didn't want to go work in a lab or be like a research scientist. So I was starting to think, okay, well, what do I do, right? What do I do? And then that's when I went into, like, I was starting to talk to different family friends, learning about new fields. Tech, I wasn't really in my orbit. Like in Australia at that time, it was less of a big sort of established industry. And also a lot of like my friends and family, like I hadn't seen a lot of people pave a pathway, you know, a way into that. So I was seeing people in, yeah, like consulting or headhunting, and I was trying to, you know, work out where I fit. And to be honest, like I thought headhunting or recruiting was going to be where I should go, because I am a real people person. And then I was told, I went and interviewed at a few places, and they're like, with your background, you know, you should go into consulting. It'll be like a lot better pay, set you up well, and like, you know, you can do it. And, you know, I was talking to this family friend. She was like, what do you want to do when you know, eventually? And I was like, well, I want to run a company. And she was like, well, you should look at consulting, because that really sets you up well as a pathway to CEO, which in the traditional, like the traditional path to a CEO, I think that is true. I think it's changed now, and like startups has changed a lot. But yeah, I would say that like that was the path I'd seen family friends do, and I like, you know, I knew that was a well-trodden path to maybe be a CEO of a public company one day. So, I mean, at this point as well, I feel like I'd buried a lot of like my childhood dreams and aspirations, and I've done another video on that of like the 10 different careers that I wish that I had when I was younger. And they were all a lot more creative or like expressive, artistic, and were actually never really desk jobs. And I do think that like society and all these expectations that are around you of like, okay, if you're smart, you got to do something with it. But, and like one definition of smart, right? Yeah, I just like kind of warped, you know, I guess you're like a sponge at that age as well. You're trying to like figure out the right way. You don't want to like do something that everyone says you shouldn't do, and then like be turned around in 5 years and everyone's like, told you so, you know? Which is how I feel now about my business a little bit, but it's obviously taught me a lot. But yeah, I think it seemed like a good starting point. But again, when I got into it, like I was very good on all the soft skills, but I really struggled on spreadsheets, data analysis, and I just didn't want to, like I kept being like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? But like I wasn't really like, do you know what I mean? When you're like, you can't get your brain to even try to want to do it. And I'd be so stressed all the time. You know, some of these like really high stakes projects, you have a manager being like, where's this like spreadsheet? And I'm like still doing formulas the old fashioned way, because I'm like, don't trust myself with the new ones. And this is like before ChatGPT as well. But like, I reckon if I had started consulting in the age of ChatGPT, I would have been fine. because now I just get like ChatGPT to write me the formulas because I always forget them, and it's fine. Like it's actually so much easier. And also because I'm not under like this pressure of like I have to get this out in 10 minutes. Like I can take my time with it. And again, it's like maybe 10-20%, or it was 10-20% of my job as a founder. And it's like less complicated, right? Like my spreadsheet, my financial model is not very complicated when you're reviewing a bank's like, you know, cost line items across 6 or 7 different functions. Like that is complicated and it's very high stakes. And it's like multi-year and all that. So I think, and I had some really good advice from like a mentor at that time who was like, well, you can either focus on your weaknesses, and some people want to do that to be rounded out, or you can really lean into where you're really strong and maybe you go after more projects that are a lot more about, you know, workshops and people and sort of like really lean into that because you're very naturally talented at that. And I sort of thought, well, yeah, I'll do that. And then I'd missed a promotion. I was sort of like one of the two. And then I just kind of was like, I don't know if I can be bothered. I wasn't excited by the content area or subject matter. And yeah, that kind of led me to obviously go into tech, into product, because again, I mean, I kind of didn't know what kind of role I wanted to go into, and product. And the product role I did was sort of a quasi-ops product role, and it wasn't super technical. And so I enjoyed that. And building a business, you do everything. But I think like what's funny is that, you know, when I was looking at like this strategy and ops role, I was like forgetting, and this is why I think I didn't land the role, how much data analysis is integral to some of these strategy and ops roles. Like, yes, you are solving problems, which I love. You're able to kind of like come up with different solutions. You're like using, you know, that kind of analytical side of the brain, but you do have to back it up with data. And I'm like, do I really want to do that? Like I can do it. This is the thing. Okay, so I can do it. I've probably like proven the last like 7 years of my career that that's like something that I'm like totally capable of. Like 12 if you include my university. Oh my god, I'm so old. And yeah, so I guess I was thinking like, hang on, I need to find a role that enables me to, you know, lean into the things that don't bring me major stress in my day-to-day and that I feel just come to me so easily, which I kind of just like came out of me when we were driving the other day. I was like, oh, I just want to get paid to host workshops and network. And then I was like, wait, there's like actual jobs that do that. So what am I doing trying to chase this clout or these sort of careers that like, I know might sound good, but actually like maybe they, you know, I'm like 70% a good fit for, maybe even like 60, not 90, 100. And, you know, I'm 30 now, it's time to like actually start being like, well, what do I want to, oh my god, that really freaks me out. But, you know, what skills do I want to hone, and do I want my work to always be something that is very much tied to a desk, that is very much deep in the spreadsheets, creating slides, and like, you know, that I'm gonna want to get out of. Like it's sort of why I end up going and starting my own business, to like build on my own and to start setting my own days. And I loved the owning of relationships and talking to customers part of it, which is very salesy. When I looked at sort of pure sales roles, I think like I'm just probably not right. Like I'm not fully set up for that. Like any kind of, you know, yeah, like full, you got to hit these quotas kind of thing. I think I'm a little bit more, I want to be like strategic partnerships is kind of like where I've landed with this, because I don't know, reading some of the strategic partnerships role, it's kind of like external strategy, and you do a lot of that relationship building and hosting workshops and events, but you're not necessarily having to make every relationship turn into a transaction. And I think that is where I love to operate. I just didn't really know that was fully possible. And I do think, like, for the sale, like, yeah, I think I would get a little bored with like pure sales of like, hey, this, but maybe there's like business development roles, I think, yeah, can be very strategic as well. And maybe I'm like, am I opening a door for that again? Why did I not want to do sales? Just come up full circle. Yeah. I think this is the thing that everyone just keeps saying, well, like, shouldn't you do something like product or, you know, more strategic? And I'm like, well, I don't like particularly find joy in that. Then I'm also at this point in my career where I'm like, okay, well, maybe whatever I do is just like a bit of a stepping stone to what's next. And I don't need to overthink this too much. I just need to get something that's quite a clear translation of my existing skill set, which is why I was starting to be like, okay, well, maybe it is just, I think the easiest role I'm going to get in a big tech company is strategy and ops, because product, I have, maybe I could get product. Have I had any? I'm just not like a full product person. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like setting like the product vision and working with customers, but the kind of ins and outs of like executing tickets and like the roadmap and wireframes, like, it's not my strong suit. Yeah, so now I'm thinking strategic partnerships, and yeah, I'm just looking at my notes to just see if there's anything else I've written, but this is feeling like the right direction. I've applied to a few roles today, also just some that are like venture ecosystem or startup ecosystem partnerships roles, because that is like something that I just definitely have the like network for already. I've got the skills to do. I would enjoy it. I don't know like where that leads me to next, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it'll serve the purpose of, you know, pivoting my career into something that is like getting paid for doing something you love, and then gives me the freedom to explore other things on the side, like doing these vlogs and, you know, seeing where that goes. And then maybe it's like, yeah, it's sort of, I think when you like your job and you feel like you're like not frustrated all the time, like the rest, so many other elements of your life will also like get balanced out in a good way. Like, you like turn up in a good mood, like when you come home, or like catching up with friends, or, you know, holidays are like kind of like a nice to have, they're not like escapism. You know, live for your weekends. Like, I really don't want to go back to that kind of like living for your weekend thing, which like maybe you get paid 25% more to like do some of these other roles, but then am I just going to be like a consultant again where I kind of hated my life and blew up, like had a blowout every weekend and was like horrible on Monday, and, you know, just like so much stress. Like, I look back on some of the photos of me at that age and I'm like so puffy. Like, I was just like not eating enough, exercising super hard, not sleeping enough, running on fumes, like so anxious all the time because I didn't feel like I was like good enough at my job. And yeah, I think it's sort of like, it is kind of hard. I mean, and this is the whole like coming maybe back to the top around like, is consulting or like a generalist job good, like a good place to start out? Like, I do think it is, but it is also hard that I think you can kind of reach a point where you're like, well, what do I specialize in? And, you know, it's hard to, because you sort of get to this point where you feel like, okay, well, I'm like kind of good at a lot of things, but what do I actually really enjoy? And like, I think people can specialize in industries, which, you know, and markets, maybe not necessarily, also, yeah, a job function like product or, you know, ops, but yeah, I don't know. I don't feel super called to do, yeah, to do pure product. But maybe it's also a good thing to try different functions. I don't know. I did feel quite good though when I had the realization, like, okay, well, like strategic partnerships, like this is it. I think this is it. And I reading the roles, I was more excited, and I didn't even realize like so many of them are like, you know, good if you have a consulting background. I'm like, like maybe this is what the consultants go into, who are like not the data crunchers, who actually have more of the people, you know, soft skills, EQ, and yeah, maybe that's where they all go, and I just didn't really realize it. And I kind of think like, I mean, in my role as a founder, like I loved going to conferences, you know, building relationships, trying to see how we could work together, different companies. And like, I reckon like BD people, and I guess a lot of the partnerships people I was meeting were always like, I'd get along with them like a house on fire, probably because they have a very similar, you know, nature and kind of demeanor to me, which is why maybe it is the perfect role. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now and what I'm going to explore next. But, you know, not to say I'm ruling out anything. This is definitely like a journey where I'm like trying to learn each time that, you know, I get that kind of feedback or something's not really working. And I do think that like I kind of came to this realization about AE roles that are like very much like you gotta do 80 calls a day kind of thing. Like I don't think I would have enjoyed that either. That would have been a little bit too much around tactical sales as opposed to strategic, big picture systems thinking. So yeah, I'm hoping there is a role out there that kind of pulls me in, and gets me excited again about working in tech, which I'm like feeling a little bit funny about at the moment. But at this stage, I just need a bit of a like, you know, a bit of a win in that direction. And I'm hoping this is how I get there. Well, that was, yeah, that was all I really had to say on that. I don't know if it resonates. I'm curious if anyone does do partnerships and like what their experiences are in it. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful if you're going through some similar questions to me.